Disclaimer. The content presented in this show is intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions expressed are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of any individuals or organizations mentioned. Statements made about public figures or entities are based on publicly available information and are not intended to harm or defame any person or business. This show relies on fair use of social media posts, which are presented in good faith for the purpose of commentary and criticism. Viewers and listeners are advised to form their own opinions.
It's Circle Back, Episode 6, the show where we review the past week in gambling Twitter. Rob Pizzola here, Kirk Evans, Jeff Feinberg, the giant Jacob Gramegna producing the show today. We've got lots of topics to cover. I do want to remind you, if you want us to cover a topic on next week's show, use hashtag #CircleBack on Twitter. We check that hashtag every week. We incorporate them into the show. Let's start it off, boys, with the election last week. I enjoyed the election coverage. I as a Canadian, I just like kicking back, switching through different news stations, seeing all the coverage. But on gambling Twitter, a lot of stuff happened. Started with Rufus Peabody, a friend of mine, maybe an enemy of Jeff's. We'll talk about that a little bit. He posted his election betting portfolio, which was very lengthy, positions that he accumulated over the course of months, the percentage of bankroll he risked, the average price, and didn't end up too well for him. He did admit to that right after the election was done. I don't love the whole here's my portfolio type of situation, especially when people who look at it can't place the bets anymore. Like, I don't know what this tweet in particular is serving.
I think I'm in between in terms of posting your portfolio risk. I can see why it's really annoying when there's no price available, but I do think it is interesting for people to see okay, this is how someone who is a pro is betting this. Here's how he's looking at it. He's willing to take both sides.
Yep.
I think he had popular vote both ways.
Yep.
But I do agree with you in the sense that that's probably not why he's posting this. Mm-hmm. But I think it goes both ways. I don't really have much of a problem with that.
I have no issue that this is posted. I actually don't think I don't see Rufus as an enemy. No, I don't.
Wow. If we could get a backpedaling sound effect here, that would be very nicely at this point.
No. I have enemies. I have rivals on the internet. Wouldn't consider Rufus to be one of them. We fundamentally disagree about something, but I swear I don't even think he would want to spend the time, but I would have a drink with Rufus. I could learn a lot from Rufus. There are a lot of people whose tweets come up on here that I would, how do I put this? That I haven't been nearly as aggressive with on the internet, but I wouldn't want to be within 100 yards of them in real life.
Right.
Rufus, I absolutely would have no issue. That being said, I also have no issue with this. Rufus is sort of a preeminent figure, and we know that he probably is into this hard, and I wish he would do this for literally an NFL Sunday or
PGA event.
Yeah, I wish he would after the fact, even if the prices aren't available. Yep. I'd be very curious. The regular PGA event, I'd love to know when he could post it 5 minutes after tee off who his no bets are on. I have no issue with this. This is not for you to go out and repeat the bets. This is now after the fact to show you essentially where one of the guys who is very highly regarded has his positions on the night in a big game or in a big event. No different than the Super Bowl.
Well, I think he's done it with Super Bowl props before as well.
But Rufus isn't going to, for the Super Bowl, for every prop, let you know, every time he placed it, put it on either.
No, I know that's the issue that I have. So I saw that tweet when it went out. I started looking at a few positions. I'm like, okay, can I bet some of this stuff right now? What are the numbers at? A lot of the stuff that was bet was maybe no longer available, or a very niche market where he got down in a specific spot, or a lot of the prices had moved a lot. But my reaction to that was more so, do people find this interesting? Because I don't. You guys obviously did. Because all I was thinking was, okay, here's what's going to happen. Either this is going to go poorly for him tonight, and then he's going to have people roasting him on Twitter, which is classic. Whenever you lose bets, that's what people want to do. They want to pile in. Or it's going to go really well, and people are still going to be upset because they're going to be like, why didn't you post this earlier? Like, am I supposed to congratulate you on your winning night? Like, you put yourself into a no-win situation. But if there's people that are interested in it, that's very different. Maybe it's just a commentary on me not caring.
A lot of Rufus bets put him in a no-win situation. No, I don't say that I just say as the fact of life. Because even when he wins, it's like, oh, great, you can risk like $800K to win that. Yeah. Like, congratulations.
Yeah, I remember somebody in particular who said that, might have said that to him.
No, that's probably not me. You're trying to like have something relitigated, which doesn't have to happen on this one. But because a lot of people, this did not go well for me. I got tagged a bunch. People were like, oh, this is your chance to like take a piss on Rufus.
Yeah. You didn't victory lap this at all.
No, I didn't. He put himself out there. He showed his positions.
Yeah.
He acknowledged that this didn't go well for me. I don't know. My beef is sometimes when things don't go well for him, he's still like, we'll pull a Nate Silver, as well. I guess we'll talk about later. My opinion in totality on Rufus and why he had a bad night is I think a lot of those bets he made at the Jazz Club with a lot of his polling cronies in high society that he has sort of befriended over these few years.
Yeah.
And as we know, the pollings went.
I know.
So they all took they all made messy.
Yeah.
And that's how that happened.
I'm with you. I mean, we can move on to this. We'll talk about Nate Silver in a second. I did see a good Book It Trent tweet, by the way, on election night as well, which was Kamala moneyline is a mortal mega max. And then later on, he posts the updated live line, which is Trump minus 5,000. Was a good try. Keep it going.
He has such a way.
He does have a way
of finding the losers. I wonder if he starts to do it on purpose, where he wants it to be the loser.
But he can't know what the losing side is beforehand.
I know.
He just has a way of doing it.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who you look at and you're like, it makes sense why he's so popular. He's very funny.
Yeah, he's funny, and it somehow always works out against him. I don't know, but like it's not like one of those things. Back in the day, I don't follow Ben the Bettor on Twitter anymore. I don't even know if it's the same person still running the account. But Ben the Bettor was like the original mush. Whatever that person picked, like the opposite side always seemed to come in somehow, and then people were like, well, is this actually a sharp that's giving out the opposite sides, or is this guy looking for the wrong side? You can't just look for the wrong side in the game.
He has come out and said that like 7 times.
Yeah.
Ben the Bettor, that he's like, I actually was betting the opposite side every time.
Yes,
which was surely a lie.
A big portion of gambling Twitter's election coverage was Steve Fezzik. Fezzik makes his way into every show.
Yeah.
I think he might be trying to do it on purpose at this point with some of the engagement tweets. But
100%.
Tweets out, no typo, I risked $28,000 to win $100 versus Doug Kazarian. I have Kamala popular vote plus 7% versus Trump. Later on during election night, KW Odds tweets, Fezzik got to be a little nervous right now when he's looking at the election winner and the popular vote odds that are up there right now. Again, I see stuff happen in real time. I see this tweet come out because I have Fezzik notifications on, and
you have Fezzik notifications on.
Got it. Funny. Now that we're doing this show, I got tons of notifications.
Did you have it before this show, or is it just because of the show?
It's new now, and we got to acquire some content. This comes out, and I'm just there. I'm like, no, do not tweet this in particular. But now I'm wondering whether he's actually just doing it for the engagement or not. Like, if you made a bet like this with your friend where you have the potential of winning $100 or losing $28,000, we're not putting that out publicly. Like, what is the intention? Go ahead, Jeff. Go.
Well, I would just, Kurt, go first.
Yeah, I think it's like not even a question. Fezzik is very much in the game of all publicity is good publicity. He knows this is his bit, and this is what he posts. Like, he wants it to be close. He wants the engagement to be as big as possible. This honestly probably was a pretty good bet, but he gets it. He knows that this is going to drive more followers. He's a tout. He wants people to follow him. He wants people to think he's smart. and this drives engagement to his Twitter account.
So all I would like to say on this issue is, because I agree with both of you, I didn't need to relitigate that part of it. But just like Julia Roberts and the Democrats thought that the women and the wives could just go into the booth and vote whatever they want in secret, well, they didn't, okay? But here's the truth. You can bet whoever you want in secret.
You can.
You don't have to tell anyone who you bet. That's between you and the book. Okay, so you want to bet on the Carolina Panthers and don't want to tell anyone so they don't laugh at you like I did on Sunday morning? I guess now I'm post-Vic laughing.
Oh, this is past posting, Jeff. Come on,
but
man.
I couldn't.
Too soon.
But I didn't want to even talk about it, but I made that bet in privacy like a vote.
Yes.
In that booth. You can bet whoever you want in privacy.
I don't think, but the thing is, he's definitely not ashamed of, so I actually think this was, it was a good bet. People don't understand the final line here. I have Kamala popular vote plus 7% versus Trump. The way that this was worded, all the retweets that are happening, it finds its way into non-gambling communities as well. People thought that he was betting that Kamala was going to win the popular vote by more than 7% against Trump. So at the end of election night, literally 90% of the responses are like, pay up, buddy, like post a receipt, you lost, you're an idiot, this and that, because of the wording and it making its way out onto the internet even further. This, I mean, frankly, was, I don't want to use the L word like a lock. There's there's polling that skewed. It was it was going to win. Like,
Yeah, I mean, the real-
100% of the time, it was going to win.
Yeah,
The real line on this probably way more than minus
Exactly.
28,000.
It's a great bet. But when you put this stuff out there, now it's open to interpretation, especially on a bet like this.
Yeah, so Fezzik's playing a game right now.
But
Yeah,
it worked
exactly.
against him. It worked against him.
I
big
don't
time.
think so.
You don't think so?
Fezzik is...
He just wants engagement.
Yeah.
He just wants
Here's the
engagement.
thing,
And,
I don't
and
know.
the fact that people interpreted it wrong drove more engagement. It worked out exactly how we wanted.
Honest question. What do you think is more important to Steve Fezzik? And I know Fezzik. He stood up for me against Darren Ravel. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that till the day I die. No one else did. Fezzik did. But what do you think is more important to him? Getting engagement or people thinking that he's smart?
Getting engagement.
Because I would
I
bet
don't know him well
a
enough to
lot
say.
on people thinking that he's smart.
No, I think after the Purdue bet became such a big hit, he realized this is a really good way of driving engagement.
Okay, that's easy. It's easy for me to say engagement as someone who he doesn't like write paragraphs to in their DMs.
Yeah.
So it's easy for me to say it's an engagement bit. Steve, like, he's very fascinating. Find it interesting. Because again, he is of how do I put this? Like, in the sports gambling Twitter space, he is in the like 0.01% of like older users.
Yes.
Right?
And he's got personality. He's a
Yeah,
character.
so
Like
there's like a cross there that there's not many people in that tier.
So election night is very divisive for a lot of people for obvious reasons. You cast your vote, you're rooting for that side to win, and with the Fezzik thing, I'm Canadian. We have rooting interests, obviously, in U.S. politics, but I'm not like it's the end of the world if Kamala wins, then the world if Trump wins. I'm not in that, and most of my friends are not in that camp as well. And we got a side chat going on in WhatsApp, the classic friends chat, and the Fezzik tweet got posted in there, and people were just rooting for him to lose all night. And I'm trying to tell people, I'm like, it's not happening. And they're like, Rob, like, it's getting closer and whatever. And it's like, it's not happening. He's going to win. You're not understanding the bet. You're not doing this. But I don't think that's what Fezzik would want in the grand scheme of things. I don't think he wants people rooting against him, calling him an idiot for making big money line plays. Like, he wants people that was a great bet, as much as it just didn't need to be out there, and it caused the adverse effect, in my opinion. Nate Silver published his simulation prior to the election. 80,000 simulations were ran. Harris won in 40,012. A lot of people were not a fan of this, by the way, because especially Harry Crane, who's been beefing with Nate Silver. If anyone hasn't noticed what's been going on, Nate Silver, obviously, a very famous figure from previously with 538, posting numbers on the election frequently. Dr. Harry Crane, professor, him and Nate Silver going back and forth for weeks about election models, basically. At the end of the day, Nate Silver took the L on this by saying the election was 50-50, and very clearly it turned out to not be 50-50. And Harry Crane took the big W on this and kind of called out Silver for past posting, because Silver then posts the map of how the actual election played out. Says, took me a bit to realize this. It turns out the actual election map we got on Tuesday was the model's modal map, the one that occurred by far the most often in our simulations. This is past posting 101, I would say. If this happened in the betting community, they would be roasted. Harry Crane roasted him. I'm just curious on your perspective of this entire situation from the outside looking in.
So I have a lot of strong takes here. First off, Harry Crane, talk your shit. Like, you got into it on Twitter for months.
Yep.
People were dunking on you. Talk your shit. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I have a serious problem with how people analyze the election after it happens. Like, no one, let's say you bet on Detroit last night, or you bet on Houston, and you got it wrong, and you thought of a game script, and you got that game script wrong.
Yeah.
No one's going to say, like, oh, you were so wrong about that. Like, there is a lot of unknown and there is a lot of variance. Obviously, politics is a little different because if you have perfect information, you will know what happens, but no one has perfect information. So you getting that wrong doesn't even necessarily mean your process was wrong when you were doing it. There could just be things that are unknowable,
right?
And it's one bet, and then it's a series of extremely correlated bets.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time, like, no one, if you bet a lot on the Super Bowl, and Rufus bets a lot on the Super Bowl, let's say, and posts all his picks and all his props, and it's a bad game, no one thinks, oh, he's a bad bettor because of that. But people think, oh, Nate's off, Nate's washed, whatever. I just have a tough time with that because elections are so singular and people draw such massive conclusions from them. But I don't know, it might just have been unknowable, and his model could have been right, but there could have been things in the polling that weren't possibly to be known, and Crane process could have been wrong, and it's just one event.
One event that he got lucky
sample.
on. Yeah,
exactly.
Fair. That's fair.
That is fair, and like definitely in the range of outcomes. But Nate definitely, was talking out of both sides of his mouth a lot through the entire process.
Yeah.
And, he had the equivalence of like bragging like you kissed a girl when you find out that girl's his sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay,
This
so,
tweet's ridiculous.
and to your point, internet rules state, like, Harry Crane, buddy, throw him. Like, he doesn't just get like one in the holster like Lucy had, per internet rules.
Right.
He's got a week of whatever he wants to unleash on these people. And I firmly believe, as someone who, like a lot of people, got inundated in the process, very, the political theater of it, you could tell for a while, all of these pollsters, they were just out there protecting their industry. All they were desperate to do was be relevant again in 2 years and in 4 years and in 6 years. There was a collective of, if I'm a pollster, what is most important to me is protecting this industry of polling that we have created that has made us a lot of money. So it's always good to see them get it wrong. And unfortunately, like I said, for a while, a few of them thought they knew everything in the world, and they gave Rufus some bad information at the Jazz Club.
Yep. I'll say this in regards to, so I have met both Nate Silver and Harry Crane before. I think they're both extremely intelligent people.
I'm not debating that. Nate's a genius, but
100%. But to me, like, Nate was working with flawed data. And I went back and I revisited a lot of the arguments that were happening in this situation. And Harry was one of them that was kind of like pointing out that, yeah, there's a lot of the data that here is flawed. I actually think Nate Silver's model is the best election model. With the amount of time he's put into it, he's consistently but when you're working with flawed data and plugging that into your model, you're going to get flawed outputs. So it's not a criticism of the model itself, which I actually think is very good. It was the data being fed into that model. And that was Harry Crane's point. That was, if you guys saw the French guy who won like 40 million betting on Polymarket, everyone was wondering, including myself, we've talked about this, all this money is coming in on Trump for a month leading up to the election, $1 million bets at a time. And the prevailing theory from a lot of people was maybe this election market is not efficient at all because you got one whale who's supporting Trump that's just dumping money into the market. Well, turns out it wasn't a whale supporting Trump. It was a quant that was basically looking at data and saying, well, I'm matching, the polling in previous years to specific regions, and it's not lining up with the way that they actually vote. On top of that, there's this effect of people who don't want to reveal that they're voting for Trump. That's a very real thing. And he just applied logic to this, and he made a killing off of it.
Guess what happens nowadays? Like, I know it's a easy, low-hanging fruit thing to say. I've never been polled. I've never been exit polled. I've never been anything, okay? And I'm home to answer that call. That being said, you come knocking on my door now, I got that fucking thing on my phone. I see exactly who's there. I don't move a muscle, okay? I don't move a muscle.
Doorbell rings at the Feinberg home. You see them with the pins on and like the badges at the front door, and you're like, no.
Yeah, listen,
we're got better things to do.
Yeah, we're not moving a muscle. So they're all just making up whatever they wanted. I'm telling you, I don't even believe people were afraid to say this time around. I believe the whole thing is like a sham.
Well, there's the neighbor polling that has been talked about now, which I think will be a big thing for next election. But
what does that mean?
Again, so it was this French guy who made a killing on the election, remains anonymous. But basically, there's a new form of polling where they ask you who you think your neighbors will vote for. And a lot of times it's a more accurate representation of the entire market because people give their own voting preference as if that's who their neighbor is going to vote for. Because it's kind of like a way to seep into the unconscious, so to speak. If someone doesn't want to admit who they're voting for, but now you ask them, who do you think your neighbors are going to vote for? They're probably going to respond with who they're voting for.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't know. I read that because that's what the French guy was, like, a lot of his thesis was.
Yeah.
Again, I would just say
it was one event.
It's one event. Like, again, the rules of the internet, I totally agree, and the rules of life. You know, you can't get paid in theoretical money. That guy made $40 million and talk his shit. But again, when you're actually evaluating it, it's true. It's one event.
You could pick any one Super Bowl that I bet on and got completely wrong and say Rob's a complete idiot, and someone who's a complete square got it right and say that person got it right, and it would be a total injustice to do that.
Exactly.
It'd be a total injustice to do that. Speaking of injustices, the NFL 2-point conversions conversation. 2 2-point conversions were widely discussed in primetime games last week. Monday Night Football, the Kansas City Chiefs took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers scored late in the game. They decided not to go for 2. They didn't see the ball again. Game went to overtime. Chiefs won the toss. They went down, scored a touchdown. Thursday Night Football, it's Bengals-Ravens. Bengals score late in the game to cut the lead to 35-34. It's 38 seconds left on the clock. And they decide they're going to go for 2. They don't get it. They lose the game, 35-34. 2 different decisions. Both teams lose the game. Lots of conversation about whether or not it was right or wrong. And we see all sorts of stuff stemming from this. Jacob, you can advance here on the slides as well. Ian McMillan. Love Ian. I'll take some shots at him for this particular conversation. everyone was just calling the Buccaneers idiots for not going for 2 in this situation Monday, but now the Bengals are idiots for going for 2 tonight. I don't know why people can't just evaluate each individual instance like it's its own separate situation, because that's what these are. Like, there's no right answer of always go for 2 here, always. You have to evaluate all the things. So by comparing one game to another, it's not apples to apples. Like, there's very different instances here. Might have been similarities on the clock, timeouts, things of that nature, but it's very fair to roast one team for making one and also like agree the other instance it's not correct. That's within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, the Bucs were 9-point dogs, and the Bengals, it was a pretty close spread. I think both teams were wrong for going for 2, but I totally agree that they have nothing to do with each other than they're like somewhat similar.
Yes. This, to me, though, is the most polarizing discussion on NFL gambling Twitter, is the conversation of when to go for 2. It happens all the time. And the reason that it frustrates me so much is because 99% of the people have no fucking clue what they're talking about when it comes to this, but they're so vocal in their opinion of whether or not it's right. Keep going ahead here, Jacob, really quickly, but we see a few things that influence. One, we got Seth Walder posting the ESPN probabilities of this is what the win expectancy is if you go for 2 versus if you kick the extra point. The problem is that he says this comes with the important caveat that it assumes a 50-50 overtime. So already this is useless because your probabilities are skewed. Overtime's not 50-50. It always favors the team that is the better team or the favored team. Then we got more stuff here, Jacob, as well, where we look at, Roger Sherman. Here's why going for 2 was the right call. Because the Baltimore Ravens scored 4 straight touchdowns. Obviously, they were going to just go down the field and score another touchdown if they got the ball. And then Diggs, who's one of my, a very sharp NFL bettor, here's why you don't know what you're talking about, and he circles the time. And that's the thing. Like, most people are making opinions on this stuff that are completely uninformed. And it drives me fucking crazy, Jeff. It drives me nuts.
I do agree each instance is its own like organism.
Yes.
And there were also instances last week which didn't like the Eagles went for it a ton and didn't get it, and then it left them in that weird spot at the end where it almost cost them and they needed the pick versus the Jaguars.
Yep.
The Patriots tie it with like an insane 14-second play. So I don't know whether Mayo would have gone for 2, but if you watch that live, you could see how the whole offense was probably exhausted after the play that just happened. They kick it, they lose anyway.
Yep.
Right? The Titans got the ball first and pretty much held it for 8 minutes and kicked a field goal.
Yes.
So everything is its own organism. As a guy that takes in all the ball, the eyes are blurry from all the ball watching. I really thought Tampa needed to go for it. Now, the caveat in all of this is, and if you watch the Sunday Nighter this week with Detroit and Houston, it's become quite apparent. They've already acknowledged 50-yard field goals. We've already hit more of them across the league this year than ever.
Right.
So me starting at the 30, only needing pretty much to get to the other 40 at this point because the 57s are in play now.
Right.
With a high-end QB and my timeouts, seems pretty achievable. So I don't really have an answer other than I agree they've taken up the discourse and I've wasted too many words saying I don't have an answer.
I think what people don't fundamentally understand, and it was on the tweet as well, I know you were criticizing the 50-50 thing, but the ESPN tweet made, I think, what is the point that people don't understand.
Yes.
Is that if you kick the extra point, you change the mindset.
Yes.
Versus if you go for 2.
100%.
That is what people do not fundamentally understand.
Yes.
If the game is tied and there's 38 seconds left, the teams are willing to run the ball, or if they're in any sort of bad situation, they will take the overtime.
This is quantifiable too as well. You can look at past game situations over the years and see how teams fare. So here's the difference, right? If a game is tied, and you have the ball and you're starting whatever on your own 25-yard line, 30-yard line, and the first play, you take an offensive holding penalty, and you go to 1st and 20. Now, a lot of coaches in that situation will try like a shorter type of play to see if they can pick up yardage to determine whether or not they want to push forwards. And there's a higher likelihood that a team will just say, you know what, it's not in our best interest to push here because of the probability of a turnover. There's so many negative plays that happen. And on top of that, they punt on 4th down if it gets to it. Like if you have 4th and 4, random numbers, by the way, 4th and 2 on your own 45-yard line late in the game, and the game is tied, the vast majority of the coaches are going to punt. But now if you're trailing by 1, they're going to go for it in that situation. It's not the same. So all these things play a factor, but it is a quantifiable math problem. Like you have live odds over the course of a game. If sportsbooks can build out an algorithm that tells them what the live odds of the probabilities of overtime are, other people can as well. It's very justifiable to just kick the extra point when there's more time left, because you do not want to incentivize the team to have to go for it.
Yeah.
I agree, but in some instances, it's like 25 seconds.
Yep.
And that's literally...
Yeah, if they don't have time, you go for 2.
Yeah.
No,
Exactly.
but that's literally... But the other team, I mean, that's literally... Even if they're tied, even if you kick it to go for 1, they'll use those 25 seconds the exact same.
In some instances, sure.
Because there's only enough time for pretty much, I'm going to burn it or I'm going to get there.
But
and
some
I
people
will
will
say,
shut it down.
Yeah,
It's-
exactly.
it's-
Teams will shut it down.
yeah, some will shut it down, but we're not talking about those teams.
We are, though.
No,
Look at the
we're
49ers.
talking about
Kyle
the,
Shanahan would shut it down with the 49ers
But
offense.
in the instances that people are talking about, we're talking about Mahomes and Lamar Jackson
Yep.
if they were to go down 1.
Yeah.
So I could see that potentially a little different. Maybe it's just my perception of it. No one is better. You talk about that 1st down play.
Yeah.
The Chiefs will get 8 to 12, at least in Kelsey's day.
Yep.
He's a little past it now, but
Yeah.
they'd get 8 to like 14 yards on the first play
Yes.
to him, at least every time versus the Chargers. I know it for a fact. And then the winning drive is just like off and running.
Chiefs
Off
and
and running.
Bucks. Let's just say the Bucks go for 2 and they get it in that situation. We now know the Chiefs are trailing. They're going to have 30 seconds. They have their timeouts and they have 4 downs, which is a big difference. That is like they are going to use all of their downs no matter what with those timeouts. Now, I'm not saying a field goal, like you get into field goal range, you have to kick the field goal. That matters too. But there's so many circumstances. We see it at the end of first halves all the time in the NFL. Chiefs, first down play, Mahomes takes a sack. Mahomes there's a holding penalty. Now it's 1st and 20. They've run time off of the clock, and guess what? That 2nd down play doesn't go well. If the game is tied, there's a propensity for teams to run a draw on 3rd down, kneel it, just go to overtime, play for overtime. It's the motivation that makes the big difference in a tie game versus trailing game state.
The Chiefs one bothers me so much because Todd Bowles, and I even after the fact wanted to hear his post-game presser and his day after media scrum to hear what sort of moronic response he would come up for it, because I'm not debating the 2 now. They got a 1st and goal from the 1 with a running clock, and he stopped it right away. And he's like, the offense looked confused. I didn't want a false start. So you keep him in a huddle.
I know.
You let 15 seconds burn, and then you use the timeout.
That was a great.
It's like his answer just made him seem dumber.
Well, listen, Todd Bowles runs a very good defense, and this isn't like NFL radio here, but coaches do dumb things all the time. That was way more moronic than the decision to actually. No matter what.
Exactly.
It's a classic thing that all the focus goes on one thing. That decision was pretty marginal when there was a decision 30 seconds earlier that was way dumber, way more clear. And this is why NFL teams should have like the best Madden players in the world on a headset giving advice, because Madden players have had the
reps.
clock.
Yeah.
They know. They can play
I literally
1,000
said,
games.
no. I said, you wanted to win the Chargers. I mean, they never should. We're going back now with Anthony Lynn. You know how they put NASA astronauts in a simulator?
Yeah.
And they make them troubleshoot? I swear to God, they should build one of those fucking machines for coaches, and they just make them simulate it on the fucking fly.
But who's going to make them
tell
do it,
the
Jeff?
time?
Because they don't even need to make one of the machines. It's literally a PS5.
Okay, but I'm saying you even make it more elaborate.
The problem is that for so many of these teams, it's systemic, right?
No, but it's like they put the racers in, they put drivers into a simulator.
But so many of these teams themselves at the top level don't even understand that there's problems within the decision making. Like, you watch teams throw goal line fades over and over with no success.
It does seem like some of these teams even hire these analytics guys just to get the nerdy bloggers off their ass.
Yeah.
And they actually don't even, they'll pay these guys a salary, a whole department, just to keep nerd NFL media like off of them from being stupid, but they don't even listen to the opinions that they're giving them.
Listen, I would never. Eric Eager was part of the Hammer Betting Network. He's now the VP of Analytics for the Carolina Panthers. I would never reach out to him and talk to him about this stuff, nor would I expect him to talk to me about this stuff. I see some stuff happening with the Panthers organization this week, specifically the contract extension to Chuba Hubbard. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I know Eric. I've worked with him in content. I talk to him every day for years. There's no way he advocated for this. So you really have to wonder, exactly like you're saying, Jeff, whether or not teams are even in the position to make proper moves, because it's still so old school in a lot of instances.
But to be fair, I mean, in some of these cases, it's like, and then people, we see some of these tweets only because Eric's my friend, and I take some of it like slightly, maybe more personally than I should. Like, people blaming him for things the Panthers do.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, this is a guy, it's his first year on the job. It's not like he's the GM. It's not like the decisions are his. I'm sure they invite him into the room. They ask him his opinion.
Yeah.
But once they make a different opinion, he's got to get on board with it. And there's probably lots of things people don't know.
Yes.
For all people know, they'd have paid Chuba $10.5 a year if not for like consulting Eric.
Yeah. Yep. The thing that gets me with the 2-point
call him
conversation one here.
Love him.
Chuba.
He's from up the road.
He's from here. He's local. He's a local guy. Chuba
Really?
Hubbard.
Yeah.
So is John Mechie. Caught a touchdown. Canadians are taking over the NFL.
Let's go.
They're taking over the NFL. In particular, this conversation. The thing that gets me is, listen, everyone's entitled to an opinion on everything. But this is not like opinion-based, really. You can argue that some of the math that's being used is a little off in some situations, but it's not something that is rooted in stating an opinion.
It's quantifiable.
It's quantifiable. So, like, I like to speak on things that I know for pretty high degree of certainty are true. Everyone weighs in on this conversation. It's no different than me, like, standing over a surgeon when he's operating and being like, no, you don't do this. There's too much blood there and whatever. And he's like, well, this is what, like, I don't give up. But it drives me insane because people argue to the death about, oh, you got to go there. Then you get, like, the results-based analysts are like, look what happened. They ended up losing the game. You could make the right decision and lose the game. That's like, that happens regularly, right? It's these types of things that drive me crazy about the discourse on gambling Twitter in particular.
Agreed.
What are you going to do? Such is life. I'll just live with it for a long time. Fake bet slips, ? A few people sent this to me via DMs, and I had never noticed this before. But now I'm going to talk about it a little bit because I find it really weird. So Trent is up here again. It's not the tweet I'm so much concerned with. It's the image attached to the tweet. If you're listening, you might want to hop over to YouTube if you want to see the image. Trent tweeted this from his account, and I noticed that Book It has started to tweet it from their main account as well, which are bet slips that aren't bet slips. They're just a graphic of a bet slip, but they oddly include the wager amount on the slip. And it could very easily be misleading. I don't know, like, does this bother you at all? Or because a couple people sent it to me, they're like, no, this is not right. And I was like, I get it.
What's supposed to happen? The games, there's just supposed to be odds on this fake script?
No, just the fact that they have a fake slip with money to imply he's betting a lot of money, but with no proof that those $2,000 have actually been wagered. Yeah, I think it coming from Trent especially is bad because there's kind of the allegations of like, is he even betting real money?
But like, if you're doing a show and you're someone like a producer's building you Chiron for the show, and
why would they ever put the wager amount on the bets though? Every single graphic in the history of like play this parlay is just the legs of the parlay.
Well, also it would be a lot less bad if it was $10
right
to win whatever.
Yeah.
Versus the fact that the wager amount is $2,000 and the whole Book It brand is like bet stupid stuff for a lot of money. It's a bad luck.
I think so too. Like it's just so odd to me that they would put that in the graphic. I don't know why I'm hung up on it now, but it doesn't like. It's one thing to post a slip, like post a screenshot of whatever your sponsor is and the dollar amount and what you're winning. That's fine. But once you're not posting the real slip, there's no reason to have the bet amount on there at all.
I agree. That should just have the odds of the ticket instead, where it's supposed to have the wager or the win.
I agree.
I think it is plausible that this was literally a design guy in the back and no one
didn't have a fucking clue. They actually sent him a bet slip and he just replicated it on
because they don't want to post like a specific book necessarily. Something, but that is plausible and it could be completely nothing, but it also could be nefarious.
Yeah. I wonder if we just start producing graphics at the Hammer with like $50,000 bets on Jeff's 3-game PGA Tour parlay this week, you know?
Yeah, we could just say this is our version of the notebook. Like it's
yeah, we could actually have an actual notebook, fake handwriting with the wager amount and to win. Yeah, really unusual. I still am like, I don't actually think it's deceptive though. Like the people that sent this to me, they really want me to go in on, this is a joke or what. I actually think that the most plausible scenario is someone said, we need a graphic for the Fugazi 5 here. Here's the bet slip, turn it into a graphic, and the graphic guy just like threw the wager amount that was on the bet slip in there. But it shouldn't be there. It shouldn't.
Yeah, Book It intern didn't know.
Yeah. All right. True worst beat. We talked about bad beats last week with Malachi Corley dropping the ball, walking into the end zone. We tweeted from our account, what's your worst beat of all time? You can follow us on Twitter at CirclesOffHQ. Van Zach says, 2017 Masters. I have a Justin Rose future on a BTC exchange, Bitcoin exchange that will pay 105 Bitcoin. At that time, about 125K. Horrible late collapse with the lead made it a normal bad beat. The fact that 105 Bitcoin at today's price is around $8 million makes it the bad beat that will never go away. I have a lot of experience with betting Bitcoin exchanges back in the day, and you got to not do this to yourself. Like if you're betting in a currency that is not like a stable amount and is as fluctuates as heavily as crypto, you cannot go back and look at your past bets. You cannot do it. It's not good for your sanity.
$50,000 NBA props.
Yes. I used to bet on nitrogen. I don't think nitrogen exists anymore.
Mm-hmm. They kind of do, but
we don't want to give any publicity. Sure. Back in the day, I would just fire bets like sweats. I'd get home, I'd be watching a game, and I'd be like, all right, I'm just going to fire. If I go back and look at those, like those were half Bitcoin bets. It turned into like $40,000 props, literally, on a game. I don't even want to check if they won or lost, and I'm up long term off those bets because I'll tilt. Like you gotta just not think about it that way.
Yeah. So I think one, this is obviously like a very funny tweet. Two, I feel really bad for this guy because this is something that I would lose sleep over for sure. Like I think a lot about like big edges that I've had that I didn't like go hard enough on. Like those things definitely get to me. So I could see this guy can never go to sleep the same again. But also, realistically, if he won 125K and 105 Bitcoin, it's not actually 8 mil. Like he's probably taking most, if not all of that out of Bitcoin. Like the idea that he would just sit that money in Bitcoin for these 7 years and it would accumulate to 8 mil. Like that's just not what would happen.
You're a glass half full kind of guy.
But it's a funny tweet.
It is. I mean, listen, I famously told this story, but we have a lot of new viewers here who never heard this before. But when I first started betting full time and I was working with a group, it came time to settle. And they're like, send me your Bitcoin address. I'm like, fuck is a Bitcoin, right? Like, I'm like, can we just, like, you send me cash or pay me, like, via PayPal? Or they're like, it's got to be Bitcoin. Or so I'm searching Bitcoin on Google. I'm getting Bitcoin is a scam, this and that. I'm like, what the fuck? You guys are trying to scam me out of my winnings. Like, I won $40K. I want the money. They're like, you're getting Bitcoin or you're not getting anything. So I registered, I created a wallet at that time. Electrum, I think, was the wallet I created. I accepted the Bitcoin, and I accepted it at I don't remember exactly how much they paid me at the time. I want to say it was 400 US, what Bitcoin was worth at that time. God. It came time to, I moved into a new house. Had to let the foundation settle for a couple of years before you can finish the basement, or else you void the warranty of the foundation or whatever. Came time, my wife's like, we got to do the basement. I'm like, all right, like where are we getting the money to do the basement? She's like, why don't you sell some of your Bitcoin? I'm like, you know what? It's at $1,300. Yeah. I've tripled. All in all, a $30,000 basement renovation. It was over $1 million renovation in today's dollars, 6 years later or whatever. And at the time, like, I did think about it for a while, and now I just look back on it and I laugh. And by the way, that was like a substantial chunk of Bitcoin. If I had kept it, I'm probably not doing this show today.
You probably would have used it on something else. If it wasn't the basement, there would have been another thing that would have come
bingo.
out.
Also, the thing about this tweet specifically is, like, if he believed enough in Bitcoin that he was going to keep 125K in it, I don't know this guy. Mm-hmm. He could have easily bought a lot of Bitcoin himself, which he probably didn't. So the idea that he would keep that money, again, is just super unlikely to me. But it's tough to think about.
It's tough. I mean, listen, I drunk sent a crypto sportsbook BCH, Bitcoin Cash, instead of Bitcoin one day. I was hammered. I sent I lost $8,000 in one transaction. Didn't know what I was doing. Never recoverable. Like, I've made so many mistakes in the crypto space before. I think, though, as long as you got in on crypto early, you can kind of look back and laugh now. But word of advice, do not go back to old crypto sports books and look at bets. Because if you were betting strictly in BTC or some other form of crypto, they're going to look like massive bets now. That was never your intention at the time. Golden State Warriors futures. I forgot I put in a future at the beginning of the year. By the end of the year, it was 5 times the amount. And I was sweating so hard. I'm like, I didn't mean to have this much on the Warriors to win the NBA title. I only wanted the amount I put in at the time. But the crypto is fluctuating. It's crazy. It's crazy. That seemed like a long time ago. Also a long time ago, 25 years ago, Pinnacle came into business in Canada, and they've been here ever since. It's because they treat their players fairly. They got a great product, low margins. They post the risk limits, so you always know how much you can bet on any possible game, prop, whatever you want. It's a great sportsbook. Make sure you check them out if you're in Canada. Pinnacle.com/hammer if you want to do so. I highly recommend them. Been betting with them for a long time. Must be 19 plus, not available in the U.S. As always, please bet responsibly. Before we get into our next topic here as well, 70% of people who watched last week's episode are not subbed here on the Circles Off channel. Take 2 seconds, hit that subscribe button down below. Also, if you enjoy the content here, make sure you smash that thumbs up. Leave us a comment as well on any of the topics that we cover today. Chicken Dinner is a brand started by a friend of mine, Sam Paniotovich, Sammy P, as he's known. And one of the shticks for years from the Chicken Dinner Twitter account has been the bartender. The bartender being a friend of Sam's who is square, who is the guy that's always like, I got the lock for this week. Sam tweets out the picks, and over the years, he's accumulated a bad record, roughly 40% over a large sample. But then this year, things are turning, and the bartender's starting to hit. He's starting to win, which prompted Sam to tweet, bartender is ... good, ? I'm curious if both of you have someone that you just blindly fade or like hate their opinion so much that when they're on the same side as a bet of yours, you actually become like scared and consider even dumping the position that you're on.
Yeah, so I would say in terms of like the mush character, I don't really have that. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe if Bucket with Trent was on a really big bet I had, maybe I'd be like, oh, goddamn, but I don't really think about that. The only people I've ever faded, and I will say, I've paid for their service before, and I think they are good bettors, but not a pure blind fade, but it's certainly pretty aggressive, is RAS NFL. At least last year, they had a stretch where pretty much none of their plays closed on NFL, or the vast majority didn't. To my memory, I'm sure they'll be in my mentions talking about this.
Well, you've already beefed with Ed from Right Angle Sports, so yeah.
Again, also advice to Right Angle Sports: change whoever runs your Twitter. But that being said, when they steam the market 2.5 points in an NFL side, and pretty regularly we're maybe getting a half point of close, I thought that it was worth fading, and I did it. I think maybe made some money on it. It wasn't like something I was super aggressive with, but that's the only person I've ever
That's interesting.
Faded.
So you didn't fade someone because you thought they were just going to be a bad bettor in the long run. You just fade them because they overmoved the market.
Yeah, exactly. The market moves a ton, and I just thought that the market thought they had a much bigger edge than they did.
Are you a blind fader, or are your friends the guys that fade you?
No, I mean maybe at times. I'm sure there's lots of people who watch some of my things and want to fade. I am a sophisticated square because when I'm being a square, like 99% of the times I know I'm being a square.
Right.
So I don't really pick on like actual sharps with models. It'd be more in like a personal level. Friends of mine, group chat, like you just know who like that number just seems small, it seems weird, and they are like absolutely on it. It'd be that sort of thing. People in the workplace. I could think about people I've worked at every single place I've been who anytime a game is being discussed. Our boy Cam Stewart these days does videos for like a hockey group.
Yeah.
And his buddy who he does those with, I used to work with, I openly faded him in the office. I'll openly fade him sometimes when I watch those videos.
So you do. You do openly. You're like I
don't have an opinion, and I want to bet a TV game.
So I strongly believe that
like
you might as well just randomly throw a dart because it's the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's fine, but I know that person loses more than they win. So in the same way, you are like sharp and you're an edge. I know there's no edge here. This is an historically losing bettor.
Yes.
So why not just fade? Like, it's a TV game. I'll just go against you.
So here's the reason why. This is my rebuttal.
I mean, I do this a ton. It's not like I'm always.
And by the way,
I'm so stubborn. I've got my own opinions. Like I've got to be opinionless.
Yes.
To need to be hunting the fade.
Got it.
And desperate to want action on like a late night awesome TV college game or Thursday night football.
Yes.
That's not like normally how I bet, but if I'm hunting for it, this is how I would hunt for it.
Yeah, and listen, you're entitled to bet however you want to bet. My whole thing is, do you like? And this is where the bartender thing is where it's rooted in, because Sam used to message me on the side. He's like bartender likes this. I'm like, I don't care, honestly, because probably after this guy picks 1,000 games, he's gonna be close to 500, and he will have just lost because he's gonna juice out on all these games, right? Are there people that are so bad that they're capable of picking 40% over a very, very long stretch? That's where I doubt it.
I doubt it.
No.
But here's the other part of it. In the same way, like you and all the sharp bettors out there, like really sharp, how do I put this? And listen, I give sharp bettors, I guess I give them a compliment. Mm-hmm. It's like saying like, you guys, you're way less lazy than I thought or something. and Diggs was like, no shit. Well, honestly, I take it back when it comes to Diggs. Because that guy's got all the free time in the world to watch every single piece of content that's ever been created. He should be working harder at making bets.
I mean, he's attended like 4 fucking Taylor Swift concerts.
He could be. I don't know. Like maybe he should be working harder at bets than like accounting everything Hitman and Fezzik say.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy the content, but maybe he could pick up his. He could put a little more time into those.
I think he's at the desk working hard
all day
for, especially during the NFL.
He spent too much time distracted by other people, though, other sharps that he's hate following or hate
I can't hate on this because I do the same thing.
Observing the hate steam.
But I will say in defense of Diggs, at least in my defense of something I do, very often when I tweet something inflammatory, it's when I've been working at the desk a lot during a day and I know I need to be on my computer for the next 6 hours and I don't have much juice. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to send something that I know is going to really piss people off. So people start replying.
That's next level
It
stuff.
gets me some more energy.
I got no issue when he wants to.
That's crazy.
The hate fuels me.
He does this to get energized.
A ridiculous take.
I know I'll stay at the desk if I'm getting
and
spammed by
you get
people
one
so mad
person
at me.
you really hate sends you a comment that pisses you off. It like
Exactly.
gets you. Yeah. And listen, respect to Diggs, like because the service is appreciated, like time stamping. Other touts.
Yeah, listen.
Tailing other touts. Like I'm not saying that's not an appreciated service. So I simultaneously. Thank for it, but I didn't even mean to go there. I just wanted to get back to, so in the pro betting space, your edges, they're everything. You'll play them. To my casual friends who want to bet on a Sunday, and sometimes me, every game isn't a one-off. It doesn't affect a mortgage payment, or it's not their fucking job. So you having 53 ping pong balls in there and me having 47, like it's still fucking...
Yeah, you're still throwing a dart.
We're still throwing like pretty much the same dart on this game. I get how you need that edge to bet every day on anything you need to sustain a living and to be responsible and methodical, but it's all just fucking dart.
Slightly. I know what you're saying, but that difference of 6 points, 6 percentage points, is enormous in the betting space. Because it's the difference of overcoming the vig.
Not if you don't care.
But to someone who works all day and has like a real job where they're getting a nice paycheck every 2 weeks, the effort to offset that might not be worth their time.
Agreed.
So they're just betting the game.
If I have a full-time job, I could never bet NFL the way that I do, or hockey the way I do now. I agree. Like Pizza Buffet, you do a great service on Sunday morning. Like it doesn't matter who you are, what you have. You should not be unloading. This is not when you should be unloading on these games. Like there's just such a better way to do it. Agreed. I mean, I'd love to get that message across. If you don't know what we're talking about, like Sunday morning NFL limits are pretty high. Sportsbooks are taking big bets. The reason they're taking big bets is they're very confident in the pricing that they've set at that point. Like that's not your time to bet. Bet earlier in the week. But yeah, I mean, I used to fade people when I was younger because I thought it mattered. And then I kind of just realized that I'd rather just flip my own coin on a game. Honestly, I would rather just quote unquote really put like a shitty handicap together for a game in 2 minutes and bet my own opinion rather than just blindly fade someone else's. I think other people do it too so that they have someone to blame other than themselves.
Maybe, but that's also why I love sports betting so much more than like if I go to... I'm not really into blackjack. I feel like I'm fighting the felt the whole time. I just like to make my own decision. If I've got like a 47% chance here, I'd rather be a stubborn sports fan and like make my own decision than play the cards.
Got it. Moneyline hit rates, our next topic here. Dan's AI Sports Picks is the gambling Twitter account at Dan Gamble AI. I was floored by the amount of followers that this guy had on Twitter. I've never seen this account before. It's a good thing I haven't. I got tagged in this, of course. College football hit rates. Here are the teams playing this weekend with the highest hit rates on the moneyline, ATS, and totals. And it's just a list of money lines, 8 spread records, and I don't know what we're supposed to get out of
the highest hit rate on money lines are just undefeated teams.
Yeah.
So AI is really the power of AI is really getting out of control. That they can tell you that Miami, who hasn't lost a game, has an 100% hit rate on money lines. That's unbelievable.
Oregon minus 3,000 versus Maryland. I mean, they're 100% hit rates. What is the value in tweeting out anything related to this team has a 6-0 straight up? It's essentially the same thing, right? This team is 7-0 straight up this week, and they're minus 380 on the money line. Who cares? It's the same as saying like a team is 7-1 ATS this year, tops in college football.
It's way worse. It's way worse. The money line, saying their hit rate against the money, like there could be information in a team being 7-1 against the spread versus just saying a team's hit rate on the money. That's literally nothing. That's just their record.
That's just their record.
It's just their record.
Artificial intelligence at its finest right here.
So there's a lot of times where, I don't want to say that many, but there's a handful of times where these tweets come out and I feel self-conscious. 'Cause I'm like, am I really stupid? Because I don't get it.
No, you're not stupid.
Yeah,
There's
but
nothing to
this
get.
one- yeah, okay, thank you. Because this one I really just don't get.
There is nothing to get. Also, I hate to call you out on this because this is something else that I don't get, and I just noticed it right now as you changed your position. But the socks with the slides is not. I don't like that look.
I love socks and slides. Questionable to wear it on a podcast, to be fair.
Do you live close by? Did you walk here?
I did walk here. I live like 5 minutes away from here. But yeah.
That changes it a little bit.
I'm like a very much.
You look pretty comfortable right now.
You
What
look
I do,
comfy.
what I do, I don't have to go into an office. It's a massive benefit to me. I don't really report to anyone. So I like living my life comfortably.
It's good.
So I did questionable on a podcast. To be fair, I'm really pushing it.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
socks
not
and
even
slides-
on a
No, it's
podcast.
fine.
If there was like a desk and no one had to see that, you could get away with it. But
I never liked the socks and slides look, but it's
But I
better
don't-
for the podcast than being barefoot.
I don't
Because if
get.
you were
I don't
barefoot,
get
you're
people
now.
who say I don't like socks and like what you want. Yeah, exactly. Me be barefoot. That's disgusting.
I don't mind. So okay,
Like if my feet were out right now, that would
yeah,
be
no,
hate.
that's weird. Socks and slides like by the pool is weird, but in
Yeah.
general,
I agree.
if you live in like a city
Yeah, I
and you're
guess.
just running an errand or something, I actually don't think it's that weird in the summertime.
This is me. This is the way my brain works. I can't explain why they don't mesh for me. I just noticed that you crossed your legs the other way, and I
And you
saw it,
saw
and I was like, I have to say something about this. It's just.
No, I could
who
see
am.
myself getting flamed for it in the comments.
I don't. Maybe not. I could probably get flamed for it.
Yeah, I guess the people who watch this podcast are probably socks and slides guys.
I'd agree. Maybe yeah.
Are you roasting the people who watch this stuff?
Well, no,
Well,
I wear them. Obviously, I like it. I think people who bet competitively, like
Yeah, if you're at the
are
desk at
trailblazers.
home-
They
I'm a
they
barefoot
do what
guy.
they want. They do what they want.
I don't put
versus,
on
like,
socks until I have to leave the house. Is that unusual?
My feet get cold, but I don't think that's weird.
I get out
my
of bed.
girlfriend's like that. I'm the opposite. I always have socks on as soon as I get up, put on socks. My
It's a good
girlfriend
signal
never
for
wears
I'm
socks.
everything.
For
I
how clean
like,
you keep your house.
No, well, it's not. I think I don't put on the socks because of I have a dog who sheds like crazy.
Okay.
So it would be a nightmare to constantly
Interesting.
be.
Okay.
I like the Uggs.
I've seen you wear Uggs before as well.
I need
Listen,
to get a
no
pair of
judgment.
those. The like
Yeah.
the flip-flop Uggs, kind of.
Oh, whatever. Like, I mean, there's
Yeah.
a whole variety from indoor to outdoor.
I might need to get a pair. Maybe
Yeah.
two, honestly.
I'm a big
outdoor and
Crocs
indoor.
guy.
Like
Crocs.
the Ugg
You're a
slippers.
Crocs guy?
I am now because when I tore my ACL, I needed a pair of shoes for like inside to wear that had good grip because it was just too taxing on my joints on my torn ACL, my repaired ACL, to be walking in socks. So I got Crocs to wear in the house, and now that I'm mostly healed, I still wear them because that's all. I'm just very used to it, and I prefer it now.
Listen, I'm going to be less. I'm going forwards. I'll be less judgmental. You know, I've come around. I'm hearing different perspectives now. I find it a little bit unusual, but I can live with it.
I wear socks and sandals, but not for a podcast.
Yeah, that's whatever.
I could wear them for a podcast. I don't know for a podcast I was leaving my house to do.
I know.
Yeah.
That
Those
kind
I
of
think
bothered.
are
Now that I'm
two-
thinking more about it, I
Yeah,
have
those are
bothered a
two
little bit more
different
by
things.
it. It's okay. It's fine.
The Crocs, I feel like once I get into them, like I haven't made that jump. I feel like I'd like them too much and be like full on.
Well, yeah, I'm not wearing them.
You
to,
look
like,
very comfortable today too, Jeff. Let me tell you.
Yeah, listen, it's a
What
cold
is
Monday
the material
morning.
of those pants?
We're just
that
it's
cashmere?
It's a victory Monday. We are comfortable.
All right. Speaking of, this will be uncomfortable, I guess, for Chris Farley.
who?
Farley Bets. This has nothing to do with sports betting, other than that Farley Bets is in the betting community, and I did notice this tweet, which was every day this fucking guy for at least an hour at a time. It's unreal, and it's a 9-second video of him with the leaf blower So Farley's looking out his window at a neighbor with a leaf blower going at it for an hour. And I really resonated with this because there's so many things. My home office is where I work. And I'm in like the suburbs and I'm home during the day. But there's all sorts of crazy shit that happens in my neighborhood that it's like supposed to be like a quiet street. And there'll be stuff like this that goes on during the day while I'm trying to bet, and it drives me insane. Nuts. I don't know if you got any specifics, Jeff.
I mean, I have specifics, nothing that I care that much about, a bunch of little things. I would say it's an impossible ask because it's almost, I'm going to go off on a tangent for a moment, I think. But purchasing the house, like, oh, there's the house you like, it's for sale. It becomes such a quick process.
I know where you're going with this. You're not going to stake out the house for 2 weeks before.
I wish you could stake out the house for like 2 weeks.
You're not going to do it.
I know.
Great
I
take.
wish there was a way.
Plus
Because
easy
it's
move
like,
of the week.
there's so many things that you don't realize. This corner, or how, like, when it snows, where it
Where the
piles
snow
up,
melts, yeah.
and where the snow plowers will push the snow to.
Yep.
I mean, this is just like one of a trillion things. But no, my wife is like freaking out. We got to put in the offer. We got to put in the offer now.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you make it feel like there's so much pressure. There's no time to waste. You're getting hammered on all sides, where I literally want to just be able to stake out the property for a week.
I just bought a new house. I'm so worried,
At nighttime,
man.
on the weekend, in the summer, what are the neighbors like? Are there people throwing parties? You know, a guy moved in, not near me, but a couple blocks away where my buddy lives. And this is like an aspiring amateur DJ who moved in.
Oh,
so you hear the is coming. And it's like, just kill me if that's me.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I feel this way about beds. I've done this rant for you, too. You go into a bed store, I'm supposed to, like, just lie into this bed. I'm supposed to replicate me being skeezed out, comfortable, watching the game at home in a bed store in front of the saleswoman. Like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, you can't eat like potato chips on the bed in like the sleep country or something.
Yeah, that's
like
what
that,
I mean.
right?
But it's like, no, and it's like, okay, so we're just gonna go try beds out on this very busy street in this front window. Like, yeah, get comfortable. And then I got really high, and my wife was really mad at me. And she doesn't get mad at me that often for being high, but I'm like, this was like, you don't get mad at me for being high to like go to your parents' house, but to try out beds, you're upset when I'm trying to replicate the feeling of at ease and comfort and going to bed. So I don't know where I took Farley's thing. I appreciate how he was feeling here.
Yeah.
But it made me have this thought of like full forensic on when you want to buy a house, and there's no way to do it. You could spend more money than you spend on anything in your life, and then you find out there's a melon 2 houses over.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to, as a bettor, so one thing I have now, I have noise canceling headphones that I wear at my desk at all times. It creates another problem altogether, which is when my wife is trying to call up to me like, oh, lunch is ready or whatever. And, you know, I'm like, just send me a message on WhatsApp or something, or on Telegram or something, and I'll come downstairs. But noise canceling headphones are huge for bettors if you're operating out of your own house, because there's stuff like this happens all the time.
I live my life 98% of the time with noise canceling headphones. That was going to be my advice. So yeah, like that sucks, but just wear noise canceling headphones. It's not that bad. And I totally agree. Like, you can get like a TV you buy, you can watch it for like a month. They'll give you a 30-day guaranteed return. House, biggest purchase of your life. You got to roll the dice.
Yeah, and it's the dumbest thing. And I am such at times like, listen, I all wish we were. I don't mean. How do I put that? I'm going to say it a way the internet's not going to take as a joke. But I just mean like I can be like fragile in the head at times with like things that mean nothing. And
Diggs responds to this clip by saying, no shit, by the way.
sure, I don't. But I wouldn't even deny that.
Yeah.
Like okay.
Yeah.
And it's just like I could feel so happy with this purchase, and then like you find out something like across the street how they just like do something all the time, or how they do their lights on a strobe light at Christmas, and you're like, I'm dead. Like, I'm dead. What am I supposed to do now? And you don't want to confront, like, you know.
Could. I've confronted neighbors before. I try to do it in a good way. So I have a neighbor in the summer who will cut his grass on Saturday morning and I'll like roll over to my phone. It's like 7 a.m. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, just wait. And I've talked to him before, and he's like, listen, like this is my only free time or whatever. And
you have to respect that a little bit.
I do. I also live my backyard right now borders on an alleyway that has garages for the houses that are in front. Every fucking morning, there's this one blaring horn, like in the morning, car horn. So one time I heard it, I'm like, I got to get out of bed and see what the hell's going on here. And it's like one dad who's going to take his kids to work, to school every day, but he gets in the car first before them, and he waits in there, and then he just starts blaring the horn.
It sounds like a divorced dad who's picking up the kids, and he doesn't even want to go to the door.
I've been dreading that conversation. There's not an easy way for me to get to that house either, which sounds really dumb because I have a high fence in the backyard, but I see it out my bedroom window and I'm like, come on, man. Like, come out at the same time with your kids. Sometimes, like, the neighbors. Anyways, I don't want to be that. I'm sure I do things that bother other people too.
What we need is a list of previous house owners. Because if you ask the current owners, they're not going to tell you anything bad about the house. You need to ask the people who lived there before that to see what was wrong with the house. If you can get a hold of them, which I don't know if it's possible.
I don't know if you can, but it's smart.
But we need that. Somebody needs to set up.
Now it's almost like you've
where
just got to you can't do a full stakeout, but maybe you like solicit a little bit on the street. I don't know. No one's going to bash their own street.
You can't do nothing. You can't do anything, man. There's nothing you can do. Full stakeout would be the way to go about it, but even then, you'd have to like creep onto the property at times. You're never going to get
full stakeout wouldn't even work because I need stakeout seasonally.
Yeah, it's true. You stake out in the summer. You don't know where the snow's going to melt.
Yeah, when the kids are off school, when they're out, like there's a whole
Sometimes you just got to take some chances.
Yeah,
in life.
exactly. It just is what it is.
Sometimes you sell 30 Bitcoin to renovate a basement and it blows up in your face. What are you going to do?
Exactly.
You just move on with life. We'll end it off here with Chuck Goldberg, who, if anyone is not familiar with Chuck Goldberg, you may have seen some tweets of his back in the day when we did Tweets That Trigger Us on Circles Off here. And Chuck is amazing because he created this TikTok account that basically is the short form version of this show. It's like 1 minute, 2 minute TikToks of other TikTokers talking about sports betting and him roasting them. That's basically what happened. So he tweets, somebody tweets at him, Chuck, why don't you post bets anymore? He responds, I know enough to know I don't know shit. Likely more qualified than 95% of people posting picks, but that doesn't mean much. Sure, could say we all knew it was in good fun, but for every 25 of you who knew, there's one person that I might be misleading, and I had a moral problem with that. And God, I got to tell you, this was one of the most refreshing tweets I've seen in a long time because I live the same dilemma as Chuck.
He should be on the board of Forward Progress.
Got to be. It's so tough.
Because that is like, at its core, what you hope to achieve. Obviously, the internet and running a business can create problems with that sort of morality. But I respect that. And in some ways, I'd respond to that by saying, it's exactly why I told Rob, we got to do this show because I can't do a best bet show anymore.
Yep.
Like, he can't,
for moral reasons for you?
Well, not even moral. I can't phony it. Like, there's too much good information out there that it just doesn't even, I don't even mean phony it, because I like to think I'm being very authentic.
Yeah.
But I'll do a golf show with my boy Pat Mayo on Monday. I'll give my opinions. I'll say who I want to bet. If I don't post a card by Wednesday, people are like, where are your picks? Where are your picks? I'm like, I honestly don't know anything. I hate my picks. You know, like, you don't want
Jeff doesn't want to end up as content for this show. You don't want to be a story for a show like this.
Well,
I don't. I mean, posting a losing pick, I don't think makes you. You got to go a lot deeper into your losing.
Well,
pick.
posting a bunch of losing picks and telling people they're locks and they can't lose, like that's a different thing. But like, how do you respond to stuff like that? You just say like, do you not respond? Do you say here are the picks, but I don't think they're good?
I give my picks. Listen, you can. the fact that it's outright golf,
Yeah.
as I've said many times,
Yeah.
that's like buying jewelry or a car. Like, it depreciates the moment you've made that pick. The moment you've driven it off the lot,
Right.
the hold the books have on that is such a high. It's really an entertainment stake market. It's not like I'm being like, these are my head-to-head
Yeah.
lock 50, whatever. So, like I've said with you many times personally, there's like a safety net in betting into a market that is like no one expects you really to win anyway.
Yeah.
Unless you're picking like the chalk of the board.
Right.
Yeah. No. And I just think this is a great tweet. I don't know Chuck Goldberg very well, but I think to consider the morality of giving picks away, even if they're free, is a very real thing. And I like this tweet, and I like this guy.
Is it, though?
Yeah, because I've never heard of you before. I see a tweet. I'm not even going to bet these fights tonight. I don't even bet fighting. God damn it. Chuck, I guess I'm betting that fight with you. I can admit I'm that.
But
no, it's
but
entertainment.
Does this board? Here's my question, because I agree with Chuck here. Do you think that for people who end up watching or listening to this, that this kind of borders on ridiculous to them? And here's what I mean by that. I give the pizza buffet Sunday mornings. I give the same spiel every week. This is not the time to bet NFL or whatever. I get people in the comments
Yeah, like,
are like that
give me
are
the
like
picks.
I know it's not the right time. What do you like? This and that. I get that all day, right? And
Yeah.
at some point, you do your due diligence. Like, what am I supposed to do now?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Rob, because I like watching like a guy who it's Sunday morning and I only have like 2 bets on the board and I want 5 or 6 bets on the board.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I just want to know Rob's lean is better than my opinion. So Rob,
But
can
it's
you just
not really. See, like this is where
can you
people
just give
fall
me your
into-
lean? Because it's better than my opinion. So I'm just telling you, at times I'm watching that being like, just give me your lean, Rob.
Well, I think it's not that giving away picks for free is always wrong. I just more so mean it's not always right.
Yeah.
And you can do things wrong if you're doing it. So if you're giving enough background or it's super obvious, I don't have a problem with it. And I actually do agree that like your bets on Sunday morning NFL probably have less than a typical theoretical hold, I would say. Like,
Sure.
like it's
Slightly.
not positive.
I'm not
but
going to
it's
beat, but you're right.
It's maybe not -5, it's -3.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a bit better. But I just like the fact that he's thinking about that. Like, it is something to be considered.
He's even acknowledging, yes, like 99.9% more know exactly what I'm doing here. But me just knowing one guy out there thinks that I'm like a savant is enough for me to be like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be nowadays on Pizza Buffet, I actually just post my model numbers for every game. And I basically give my breakdown of the game, why I think I might be off market or something, but I don't explicitly give out picks anymore because I want people to be able to do with that what they would. And the point for me was a couple years ago when I used to explicitly give out picks, but then at the end of the show or like the end of the day, people would DM me and they'd be like, "Oh, thank you for the Cowboys play." And I'd be like, I didn't give out the Cowboys. And they're like, well, I knew you bet it earlier in the week because of the way that you were talking about it, so I just wanted to be on the same side as you. And I'm like, fuck, like I really got to watch what I say on these shows, because if I go on and I say, listen, I'm holding Cowboys -3, but it's got out to 3.5 now. If I didn't have that bet, I wouldn't bet it at this price.
People will buy it to the 3.
Or
to be
they'll
with
buy
you.
it to the 3, sure, or they'll just bet the 3.5
Yeah.
because they want to cheer on the same thing as me.
But they're like, I'll eat 20 cents to be on what Rob's on.
Exactly.
And
that fucks with you a little bit.
and you are like, and I know from your angle, you're like, that's not what I bet.
It's not.
You're not betting what I bet.
The 20 cents is the reason you bet it.
Yes, exactly. In a lot of cases, it's really challenging when people like when you know that that's happening. It actually does weigh on you. It's tough because you're like, what if this was the other way? How many times is it the other way around? Where I said I bet something, I no longer want to bet it, and it lost.
When we do the NBA show in the mornings, when Pips has like a lean that he's like thinking about, he says, I may have a play here, we'll see. And then he'll go, okay, turns out we don't have a bet here. People in the chat will ask for what the play was.
Yeah.
Just so they can know. We're like, we're not going to tell you because we know a lot of you will bet it, and we know it's a bad bet. So we literally cannot tell you what the bet is.
But when does the onus go on the person consuming the content? Because if you are out forthright and be like, exactly that, Jacob, and then you give it out, the onus is now on them.
You have to think
agree.
about
you
have to think about the people that are there for the first time or there for the second time. Like if you watch every show, you should trust the creators enough. But if you don't watch every show, you think it's just a show that gives out winning picks, you'll tail something like that probably.
And creators will get away with that and then victory lap it by saying it was like a pizza money bet or like lunch, lunch. You just bet like a free lunch on it, not like a normal bet or something, so they can dance around the verbiage of how they do it, which is hard because we've spoken about it before. You're doing content.
Yeah.
There's a big game. You don't have your model says it's a good line. It's perfect. People still want to bet the game, and they're coming to you.
I used to work with a guy who provided some very nice PPH accounts, high limits that we could bet into before. But he used to ask me every single day, repeatedly, like, what are your hockey bets? Who are we on? This and that. So eventually just gave him access to my real-time numbers, a spreadsheet that had the real-time numbers. I told him, I'm like, listen, just for visibility, do this, but like don't double up on bets or anything like that. And like a month later, he comes back to me. He's like, I've been betting them right before the games so that I don't influence the moves. And he's like, we're not winning. I'm like, have you seen your accounts, man? We're winning. You're just betting all the plays where there was either a injury news that went against us or like some sort of market resistance. Yeah. I'm like, this is not the time. And he could not comprehend that. And I just want to be on the same side. And it really drives me crazy. Had to stop working with that guy, unfortunately. It was just too much to handle. But Chuck Goldberg, great tweet. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate everyone out there who watched and listened again this week. If you're listening in audio form, please rate and review 5 stars. It helps us a lot. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. Subscribe here on the Circles Off channel. We got some interviews dropping in the next couple weeks as well that you will want to stay tuned to. Some very interesting characters. Definitely stay tuned to that here on Circles Off. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll be back next week. Peace out.